Hey everyone, we are back live on YouTube and LinkedIn with another exciting episode of the Top Innovator Series, where we dive into proven leadership ideas, game-changing strategies, and of course, the brilliant minds behind them. My name is Joseph Martens, and I'm thrilled to introduce today's guest to you. With us today is Kevin Sturlaugson. He is the Associate CIO at the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And with 20 years of government leadership experience, he has held other tech executive roles with other agencies, including the IRS and the U.S. Navy. And we are thrilled today that Kevin is with us. Kevin, it's great to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph. I appreciate being invited.
Kevin, we'd love to hear something about your leadership experience and your journey. When you reflect on the success that you had, and clearly you have an immensely successful journey, when you reflect on that and ask yourself, well, how did I get there? Why did it happen like that? What do you think are some of the ingredients for your success? What are some of the key leadership skills, traits, or tools that got you to where you are today?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that build us, right? We have all kinds of building blocks that design who we are, and we start at one point. And I think most of us in the leadership realm, a lot of us have started out where we were delivered results, right? And that's what gets us
Mm-hmm.
notified and identified as an up and coming leader. But what really unlocked my true potential, and I say my true potential, but it really was my team's true potential, was understanding that instead of being competitive and trying to outdo everybody, was to start leveraging all those around me and start understanding that until I make them ready to take my role, I can't move up, right? So how do I make them ready to be able to elevate up to the work I do and let them be empowered to start learning how to act and talk and be a leader. And when you start doing that, you have many people that can perform at that same level, and just creates much more potential and opportunities.
Yeah, the way you phrase it sounds like a mindset shift, right? The way a shift in how you see people from being in a competitive space over to the team space or leveraging people and getting them ready to replace you. What contributed to that mindset shift? Tell me a bit about how that happened, how you came to that.
Well, it was a combination of a few things. Of course, had some mentors early in my career,
Mm-hmm.
and still have mentors now, but had a few mentors in my early career that brought it to my attention. And there were several books, that talked about, unlocking your true potential and how to make sure that you are creating that succession plan and leveraging the voice of others.
Mm-hmm.
So it converted me from being more of like a stoic leader that just
Okay.
went for results to being a servant leader, right?
Okay.
And once I converted myself into understanding and wanting to be a servant leader, then all of a sudden my staff became engaged. They were energized. They were ready to
Mm.
jump in. The interesting part is that I found as I was going through that journey was not everybody really wants to be accountable or responsible for making decisions, right? So when you empower them, you try and empower down to where the data or the information's at. Some of them may not be ready for that, or they haven't done it before, so they're very um, concerned on being held accountable, responsible for that. So you have to give them a safe space to grow and understand that, hey, you may not get it right up at the first time, but hey, as long as you learn from it, you understand it, and we don't repeat it, then great. And so you have to be
Yeah.
willing to let people have time to come along in that journey. You can't expect that they're going to be exactly where you are in making decisions and feeling comfortable uh, with taking the risk to that level.
Yeah, yeah. That's an interesting dilemma or balance that you outline there, right? On the one side, people want ownership, they want to make decisions, but at the same time, they may not be ready for the accountability or the consequences that might come with that. Tell us a bit more about how you got to reconcile these two for yourself. How do you get to that place where you're accepting both, you want the ownership, and at the same time, you're standing fully in that so that accountability becomes possible?
Yeah, I think it kind of comes around where in one of my favorite books, of course, being an ex-Navy guy, was Turn the Ship Around by Dave Marquette.
Okay.
In there he talks about, how do you establish that engagement and accountability, and, being previous military, you're used to having to make those decisions and go because you got lives at risk. You can't just pause and wait. It's a little bit different when you get into the technology realm where, there may be financial liabilities or data risk, but people's lives aren't at risk, right? So there's a little bit more time to take a time and review and think, do I have enough data to move forward? It's really about trying to get your staff to, well, I guess my process is I get to know them first. So that way we build that relationship, because trust is the key component when it comes to being able to make decisions, take the risks. But you don't just take risks just willy-nilly, right? They got to be calculated. There's got to be a certain level that you're willing to go to. And so certain risks I keep at my level, where I sit there and say, no, I don't want you to be held responsible for that. I don't want you to feel guilty or, feel like you're being put in a heavy burden if something goes wrong in that space. So I keep that risk at my level and make those decisions at my level. But things that, aren't going to create detriment to the organization, detriment to the person's career, detriment to the person's well-being, then I give them the opportunity to grow and make those decisions and come alongside them. If they aren't sure, I give them some mentoring or coaching thoughts on how do I go about and evaluate those things and then base my decision off of, and so that they learn alongside of how I thought, and I give them references to go to and others to talk to, because we should never go by one voice. We should listen to multiple voices.
Okay.
Because one person could lead you in the wrong direction or have a wrong perception, and then you go down the wrong pipe. If you get several voices and they align, then you're in a better position.
Yeah. That's an interesting concept. We shouldn't always go by one voice. I think I'll remember that. It was a good line. Let me take a look at your leadership journey from a different perspective. Tell us about some of the advice that you received. I'm sure you had trusted advisors, mentor, guides, and other peers who followed your path, who were there with you. What are some of the good pieces of advice that you got from them? Some things that you really still hold on to, maybe? Things that resonate.
Yeah, so, and there's things you learn from good leaders and bad leaders, right? We all have worked with those along the past. And so, I've had some really good leaders that have shown me what it means to care about your people, and that if you take care of them, they'll take care of you. What it means to continuously look to learn and grow and become more well-rounded, and know that we always have opportunity for improvement. So don't ever stop, keep going. And then I've had some leaders that weren't so good, where they talked like they were one certain leader, but they weren't, right? They would talk the talk, but their walk didn't line with it. So, with that, I learned is to make sure you're transparent and true to who you are, right? So like me, where I'd like to be a servant leader, not everybody's a servant leader. It doesn't work for everybody, right? So don't try and be a type of leader that you don't naturally align to and can't support, because your employees can see through that. And when they do, then you lose their trust, you lose their support. And, it just becomes a bad position to be in at that point.
Yeah, it's noticeable so quickly, right? It shows up so quickly if there's a mismatch. Talk to me about some advice that you received that maybe didn't make sense at the time when you heard it first. Something that sounded off, sounded like a stupid idea, ridiculous, makes no sense at all. And as you matured, as you grew further in your leadership experience, you went back to something and thought, maybe there was something to that. Maybe there was more wisdom to that than I originally thought. Is there something like that?
Yeah, some of the things that I think of in that space that, what was I told that I didn't necessarily understand at the time, and do I go back now and say, I'm grateful for that advice that I got, was one is to be willing to fail, right? Because I never understood, that it was okay to fail. And a lot of that went back to my military background, but even moving forward, I never liked failure, never wanted to fail. But I had a leader sit there and tell me, it's okay to fail. Just fail fast, learn from it, and move forward. Don't continue to spin, and make your adjustments so quickly. So when I was told that, it caught me by surprise. Like, how you really want me to fail? That doesn't make sense. But as we look at technology, with how quickly it changes and evolves, and with our people, everybody's different. So they have different personalities, different perspectives. Uh, Sometimes you're going to fail, but go back and do some retrospective on what caused the failure, learn from it, and move forward. And it's helped me grow immensely doing that.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. You pick something that we always say, right? Failing is important. Fail fast, but it's not always clear when we before we've experienced it, before we've really seen the value of it or the possibilities after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about your past leadership experience. I would like to take a look at today. And again, that's not a question about organization, projects, products, or anything like that. It's about your journey. When you look at where you are today, what's an area where you would like to focus on right now? What's an area where you feel like there is growth possible? There is something that I can scale up, I can level up. What's something where you pay attention at the moment?
Yes, I think there's actually two in the
Okay.
space, right? And I mean, probably one for almost everybody is generative AI, right? Everybody wants to understand, what is this monster? How do we leverage it to look at the data and process we have, and to improve it? Uncover other financial opportunities, other capabilities that we can utilize to improve our operations. But the other one, the one that really has my attention, it has for the last year and a half, is more around user experience, customer experience, right? It used to be in the past that technology just said, hey, deliver me a widget, and you delivered the widget. You didn't care if it really met what the business needed, or enabled them to be able to do what they needed to do. And I think it's totally flipped now. Unless technology is embedded with the business, understands their needs, understands their constraints or their capabilities, we have to be at that level to start talking with them at the beginning about what technologies can be delivered that make it easier for them to accomplish their mission or their jobs, which in the end results in bigger profits, better end game for the organization as a whole. So that's been where a lot of my focus is trying to become a better stakeholder and partner with the business side, to understand their needs before I build my strategy, before I build my roadmap for enterprise technology capabilities, or what other things need to be brought on.
So how does that change the way you lead your people? So I get it in terms of the discussions that we're having, and maybe that's it, right? The conversation is about the customer experience, or the conversation is about AI. But does it have an impact on how you bring leadership to your organization?
Yeah, I think it is, because there's been so much of a stress between the business and IT over the years, that you first have to start developing that trust with the business to go, yeah, IT really cares about me now. They haven't in the past, but they're going to care about me now, right? So how do you bridge that gap? And your employees, in the technology field, the place I've been, have never been very collaborative with the business, except for when somebody says, okay, I need this technology delivered, and they get their requirements and start doing the project and developing the tool. It's a different type of conversation when you're trying to be, together in the initial stages of, what is your business trying to do? How can we help you? Right? It's, instead of, I'm going to deliver you a widget, it's, how do I help you? And what are your real needs? So it's having to train your staff to be different in that space, and then develop that trust with the business.
I got it. Also means, like you say, helping your staff develop these broader relationships, become that trusted advisor to other parts of the organization as well. Yeah, I got it. Let me ask you one last question, and then we're going to land the plane, Kevin.
Okay.
If there was a mantra or a short saying or some bumper sticker or something like that that encapsulates your leadership philosophy, what would that be? Short slogan, something that sums it up, if there is such a way.
Yeah, I would say my slogan would be, a transformational leader that believes in his people and empowers them to make the organization a better whole.
I like it. So the focus on the whole organization is right there again, right?
Yep.
Not just your team, but the whole business, the whole organization. Kevin, thank you. It's been a real pleasure talking to you and hearing about your journey. Many things that will stick to me here, and I really enjoyed the shift that you described at the beginning, the mindset shift away from making sure everything is right, but leveraging people and not competing with them. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been great.
Awesome. For everyone out there, remember to like, share, and subscribe. And most importantly, join us again for the next episode of the Top Innovator Series. And until then, keep your brain cells active.